A black SUV pulled up to the curb with quiet efficiency, its engine purring like a well-fed tiger. The driver tapped the app screen. Passenger, Evelyn Walker. Pickup confirmed. He glanced at the time, 4:02 p.m., right on schedule. Inside the SUV, Darius Cole adjusted the rearview mirror. His square jaw was peppered with a few grays, and faint scars lined his hands, remnants of a life most people wouldn't guess at when they looked at his simple jeans and olive-green bomber jacket. The backseat was pristine. He kept his car clean, orderly, and calm, just like the life he was trying to build after everything he'd seen. The front door of the stately townhouse opened, and a blonde woman in high heels descended the steps with a phone to her ear. She wore a cream blouse and a tight pencil skirt, her handbag swinging like a pendulum. "Yes, Roger." She snapped into her phone. "Make sure the projections are finalized before the pitch meeting. I don't want to look like a damn intern in front of the board again." She opened the rear passenger door and slid in. Darius smiled briefly, glancing at her through the mirror. "Good afternoon." Headed to the Four Seasons on Boylston. She didn't answer him directly. She kept speaking into the phone, waving a hand at him dismissively. "Just drive. I need silence." Darius gave a nod. "You got it." The car rolled smoothly onto the street, merging into downtown traffic. Jazz music played softly through the speakers. Miles Davis. Evelyn wrinkled her nose and reached up to the center console. "Could you turn this off? I don't want to listen to this elevator stuff." Darius complied without a word. Switching it off, silence fell, thick and awkward. 3 blocks passed. Then her voice cut through again, this time directed at him. "You do this full time?" He glanced at her in the mirror. "Driving?" "Yeah." She smirked, eyes still glued to her phone. "I guess not everyone's cut out for real work." Darius didn't answer. He'd heard worse. But her words landed like dull thuds against something deeper inside. She kept going. "I mean, look at you. I bet you used to do something. What warehouse? Maybe security. Couldn't cut it, huh?" He tightened his grip on the wheel. "I used to work overseas." "Oh, let me guess, some third-tier contractor gig." "Right. That explains the buzz cut." He inhaled slowly through his nose. "I'm serious." She continued with a laugh that had no warmth, no offense. "But the guys who end up driving me around, they're usually people who made less than stellar choices. You clearly didn't think long-term." "What are you? 45.50. 48. She nodded smugly, like she'd scored a point. "You should have invested, gone corporate. But hey, I guess someone's got to drive the rest of us." Darius's eyes flicked toward the mirror. "You always talk to drivers like this." She shrugged. "I'm honest. Maybe you should thank me. Might motivate you to aim higher." He let that hang in the air as he made a right turn down Clarendon. The Four Seasons was 5 minutes away. She sighed dramatically, then started rummaging in her bag. "God, where's my lipstick? I have to look good. I'm meeting the CFO. And you know what they say, appearance is everything." She glanced at him. "But I suppose someone like you wouldn't know about high-stakes meetings, huh?" "Still." Darius said nothing. "You ever even been inside the Four Seasons?" "Probably not. Doubt they'd let drivers use the front entrance. Try not to embarrass yourself when we pull up." Darius pulled the car to a smooth stop at a red light. Outside, the city bustled. Business people hurried past. Tourists with cameras. A man selling hot dogs on the corner. The light turned green, and they rolled forward again. She chuckled suddenly, scrolling her phone. "God, this is going to be one for the books. Wait till I tell my friends I got lectured on silence by a guy who probably lives off tips." Darius pulled into the roundabout in front of the hotel. A valet jogged up as Darius smoothly brought the SUV to a halt. "Here we are," he said quietly. Evelyn rolled her eyes and reached for the door handle. "Ma'am," Darius said, voice level but firm. "Before you go," she paused. "What?" He reached into the glove compartment, pulled out a dark leather wallet, and flipped it open to reveal a laminated ID card bearing an eagle emblem, gold lettering, and a photograph of a younger, clean-shaven Darius in uniform. Beneath the seal, it read, "United States Department of Defense, Veteran Honor Pass." "What's this?" she asked, tone shifting. I served 3 tours, he said evenly. Afghanistan, Iraq. Got out as a staff sergeant. Bronze Star, Purple Heart. This pass. It gives me unrestricted access to military bases, honors at government facilities, and yeah, even a free stay at this hotel chain. I come here every year for Veteran Appreciation Week. So yeah, I've been inside. Evelyn's mouth opened slightly, but no sound came. He continued, voice still calm but cutting through the air like a blade. You looked at me and saw someone beneath you. That's your mistake. I didn't lose anything I served. I protected people like you, even when you wouldn't look twice at someone like me. The valet stood frozen nearby, his jaw slightly dropped. Evelyn swallowed, her voice now small. I didn't mean yes. You did, Darius interrupted softly. But it's all right, you're not the first. He clicked the center console. Ending the ride, she fumbled with her purse. 5 stars, she muttered. He smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. Save it. As she stepped out, flustered and red in the face. The doorman opened the hotel entrance. She hurried inside without looking back. The valet leaned in. Sir, I just want to say thank you. My cousin's in the Navy. Darius nodded, his expression softening. Tell him to keep his head down and his heart up. The valet saluted. Yes, sir. As Darius pulled away, a sense of calm settled over him. The city buzzed on, indifferent, but in that small space inside the cab of a black SUV, dignity had stood its ground. But the day wasn't done. His app dinged. Next pickup, Marcus Westbrook, Beacon Street. Darius tapped the screen. On my way. He drove toward the pickup point, thinking the ride would be ordinary. He was wrong. Marcus turned out to be a sharply dressed black man in his late 20s, AirPods in his ears and sunglasses perched atop his dreadlocks. He slid into the back seat with a brief nod. Hey, man. Appreciate you picking me up. Kinda on a time crunch. No problem, Darius replied, checking the destination, heading to Logan. Yeah, gotta catch the 6:15 to Atlanta. I'm pitching a startup to some VCs. Good luck with that. Marcus glanced at him. You ex-military. Darius looked up in the mirror, surprised. Yeah. How'd you know? The way you drive. Controlled. Eyes always moving, Marcus smiled. My pops was Army. 20 years. Taught me to recognize the signs. Darius smiled faintly. Your dad sounds like a smart man. He was. Lost him to cancer 2 years ago. I'm sorry to hear that, Marcus nodded. It's cool. He's the reason I hustle. Wanted me to build something better. As the ride continued, the two men traded stories of discipline, struggle, and ambition. The city's noise faded into the background. For 25 minutes, it felt like time paused. Mutual respect filled the space Evelyn had poisoned hours before. When they reached the airport, Marcus hesitated before opening the door. Hey, he said, you ever think about consulting? Tech needs people with your mindset. Darius raised an eyebrow. Me, I just drive. That's what you do. Not who you are. Take this. He handed over a business card. Call me next week. I got ideas. Darius accepted the card with a small chuckle. Thanks, Marcus. Safe flight. As Marcus disappeared into the terminal, Darius sat in his SUV for a long moment. The sun was beginning to set, casting golden light across the windshield. He pulled out the Veteran Honor Pass again, staring at it, not out of pride but reflection. For years he'd tried to stay small, hidden, but maybe it was time to stop hiding. He fired up the app again. Another ping, another rider. But this time, he wasn't just a driver. He was Darius Cole, veteran, survivor, and maybe, just maybe, builder of something new. He pulled out into traffic once more, the hum of the engine his only companion. Boston's skyline shimmered in the evening light, but Darius wasn't looking at the city anymore. He was seeing moments from his past flash by like mile markers. The desert sun baking his back as he dragged a wounded soldier to cover. The vibration of distant mortars. The quiet prayers muttered between brothers in arms. The silence of the flight home. The faces of friends who didn't make it. Another ping. Pickup. Harvard Business School. Name. Connor Bentley. He smirked. The universe sure had a sense of humor. He turned left and headed toward Cambridge, weaving past cyclists and Teslas. When he pulled up near the grand brick facade, a tall white man in his early 30s stood checking his watch, hair slicked back, designer suit, a Rolex that probably cost more than Darius's monthly income. Connor slid into the back with a huff. Took long. Enough, he muttered, not looking up from his phone. Darius didn't react. He'd played this game before. Traffic, Darius replied calmly. Always bad near Harvard around this time. Connor snorted. Excuses. They sat in silence as the SUV glided back into traffic. Connor tapped away on his phone with exaggerated sighs every few minutes. Eventually, he looked up. You served, didn't you? He asked suddenly. Darius glanced at the mirror. Why do you ask? That little patch on your dashboard. It's a Ranger tab, right? Darius nodded once. Connor scoffed. Let me guess, didn't know what to do with yourself after the war. So you ended up behind the wheel. Darius didn't answer. You know what's crazy? Connor continued, chuckling. You people always come back thinking you're heroes. But you can't even get a real job. I've got 2 MBAs and 3 startups under my belt, and I'm 32. You're what, 50, 48? Same thing, Connor said, waving it off. Just funny how the government hands out medals and parades for guys who couldn't hack it in civilian life. Darius's knuckles tightened slightly on the wheel. I mean, come on, Connor pushed. Clearly enjoying himself now. You're probably the type who blames the system, says nobody gives veterans a chance. Truth is, you're just not smart enough to compete. Darius flicked on his turn signal and changed lanes. I had a buddy like you once, Connor went on. Joined the army. Thought he'd be a badass. Came back with PTSD and a drinking problem. Works as a mall cop now. Darius let out a slow breath. You done, Connor grinned. Just getting started. You know, this country spends billions training people like you to shoot, but not a dime to teach you how to function afterward. That's why guys like me run the world. And guys like you drive us around in silence. The SUV rolled up to their Ritz-Carlton. Darius put the car in park and turned around slowly. You think that's funny? Connor shrugged. Just facts. Without a word. Darius reached back into the glove compartment, pulled out the same leather case, and flipped it open again. This time, he held it longer, letting the weight of the gold lettering speak. Connor's smirk froze. He leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Wait, that's a Veteran Honor Pass, Darius said evenly, issued by the Department of Defense. Reserved for active combat veterans with distinguished service records. 3 tours, Afghanistan, Iraq, unit citations, Bronze Star with Valor, Purple Heart, Ranger qualified, and yeah, I'm still breathing. Connor sat back, speechless. I don't need your validation, Darius said, voice firm. I earned mine in sandstorms and firefights, not in boardrooms built on venture capital and daddy's money. Connor shifted uncomfortably. Look, I didn't mean, yes, you did. But here's what you don't understand. People like me didn't serve for the medals. We did it so people like you could feel safe enough to be arrogant. We did it because we believe in something bigger than ourselves. Connor cleared his throat, suddenly interested in the door handle. Darius hit the release button, unlocking the doors. You're here. Have a good night. Connor stepped out without another word, his confidence visibly shaken. Darius pulled away from the curb slowly, adrenaline still buzzing through his system. For a moment, he considered turning off the app and calling it a day. But then another ping came in. Pickup, Roxbury. Name, Angela Ramirez. He accepted. Roxbury was different. Brick buildings with chip paint, stores with security grates. But Darius knew the area well. He had friends here. He even volunteered at the community center sometimes, helping with self-defense classes for local teens. He pulled up outside a small bakery. A young Latina woman with tired eyes and a name tag stepped out. She wore a flour-stained apron and clutched a paper bag. You, Angela. She nodded and got in, her shoulders slumping as she buckled up. Long day? Darius asked. She laughed bitterly. You have no idea. Where to? Brigham Hospital. My mom's having dialysis. Darius nodded and pulled into traffic. She sighed deeply, staring out the window. Do you mind if I ask something? She said quietly. Sure. Do you ever feel invisible? Darius glanced at her through the mirror. All the time. She nodded slowly. I work 2 jobs. I send money to my abuela in Puerto Rico. I study at night. But people still treat me like I'm just some poor girl who can't speak English. You're doing what most people wouldn't have the strength to do, he said. You're a fighter. Angela smiled faintly. You too. Darius thought about it. Yeah, I fought. In more ways than one. They reached the hospital. She looked down at her bag, then at him. Thank you, she said, for treating me like a person. He smiled. You are one. She stepped out, and for the first time that day, Darius felt peace settle in. He looked at the app. A moment passed. Then he hit offline. He pulled over near the Charles River and got out. The evening breeze was cool on his skin. He walked down to the water, where the lights of the city reflected like trembling stars. He sat on a bench and pulled the honor pass from his pocket again. He wasn't ashamed of what he did now. He wasn't just a driver. He was a survivor. He was a protector. He was still serving. And in a world so quick to judge, sometimes the greatest battles weren't fought on foreign soil, but in silence, behind the wheel, one ride at a time. He stared out at the water, watching the ripples chase one another beneath the glow of the setting sun. A few joggers passed behind him. Couples walked hand in hand along the riverside path. But in Darius's mind, he wasn't really there. Not entirely. He was remembering something else. Something older, darker, and much louder. Cole, get down. I'm hit. Someone help me. God, please, move, move, move. He blinked hard and swallowed. The ghosts were quieter now than they used to be, but they never left entirely. His phone buzzed in his jacket pocket. He ignored it. Then it buzzed again this time, not the app. It was a message. From Marcus. Yo, Darius, thought more about what I said. My CTO wants to meet you. Lunch tomorrow. You in? Darius stared at the screen. For a long time, he'd been content just surviving. But maybe Marcus was right. Maybe it was time to start building again. He didn't reply right away. He needed to think. Back in the SUV, he sat in silence, the engine idling as dusk turned to night. He finally tapped back. I'm in. Noon works. And then, just as he hit send, another ping came in. Pickup Dorchester. Name, Caleb. He considered ignoring it. But something nudged him, something instinctive. He accepted and began driving. 20 minutes later, he arrived in a narrow street filled with duplexes. The porch lights were dim, and somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. A tall teenage boy stepped off the curb. He wore a hoodie and sagging backpack. He looked up and waved. You, Darius? The boy asked. I am. You, Caleb? Yeah. Thanks for coming. He got in and sat quietly. After a moment, Darius noticed the boy's hands were trembling. You, okay? He asked gently. Caleb hesitated. I didn't know who else to call. I couldn't ask my mom. She's working. Where are we headed? Caleb swallowed. Honestly, I just needed to get out of there. My brother, he got into it with some guys again. Police came. I was in my room, just listening. I didn't know what to do. Darius nodded, eyes on the road. You did the right thing, getting away. I ain't weak, Caleb said suddenly. I'm not. No one said you were, Darius replied. Takes more strength to walk away than to fight. Caleb turned his face toward the window, hiding something wet in his eyes. You a vet? He asked after a while. Yeah. My uncle was. He used to tell me stories. Said the world don't give you respect unless you demand it. Darius smiled faintly. Your uncle was right, but there's more to it. Respect starts with how you see yourself. That's the part people forget. Caleb looked at him. You always drive. Not always. I've done other things. I'm starting something new. Maybe. We'll see. Can I ask you something? Sure. How do you stop being angry all the time? Darius was quiet for a long time. You don't, he finally said. You learn to carry it differently. You learn how to use it for something good, but it never goes away. It just changes shape. They drove in silence a while longer. Where can I drop you? Darius asked. Anywhere there's lights and people, Caleb said. I just don't want to be alone. Darius made a decision. He pulled onto Blue Hill Avenue and parked outside a local diner he knew well. The owner, Reggie, was ex-Navy. Kept the place open, late for kids who needed a warm meal and a safe place to sit. Come on, Darius said. Caleb looked confused. What? Come have a burger. My treat. You serious? Darius nodded. You look like you need a good meal and a little peace. They got out together and entered the warm glow of the diner. Reggie greeted Darius with a slap on the back and a hearty hoo-ah. They sat. They ate, and for the first time that day, Darius felt something shift inside him. He wasn't just driving anymore. He was guiding. The next morning, Darius stood outside the mirrored glass tower of a downtown tech firm. He had put on a clean white shirt, black slacks, and shined shoes. He clutched Marcus's business card in his pocket like a lifeline. Inside, Marcus greeted him with a handshake and a grin. You showed up. Knew you would. The meeting went well. Better than well. The CTO, a thin, intense woman with silver glasses named Priya, listened to Darius speak about logistics, pressure, and tactical organization like she was hearing gold. She leaned forward and asked questions, took notes. When it was over, she said, We need people like you, people who've been tested. Darius walked out with a consulting contract offer, a real one. That night, he drove one last ride, an older woman named Miss Green, heading to her daughter's house for dinner. She was kind. She asked about his day. As they neared her stop, she looked over and said, You've got kind eyes. You ever do anything military? Darius smiled. Once upon a time. She patted his shoulder before getting out. Thank you for your service, son. When she left, Darius sat for a long while under the stars. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the Veteran Honor Pass again. For years, it had just been a symbol, a reminder. But now, it was something else, a bridge, not just to his past, but to his future. And with the city lights dancing across the windshield, Darius Cole smiled like a man who finally remembered who he was. The war had taken much, but it hadn't taken everything. Not his honor, not his strength, not his purpose. And now, one ride at a time, he was taking it all back. The next few days unfolded like a quiet revolution in Darius's life. Each morning, he rose with the discipline that had been carved into him years ago. But now, there was a spark, a renewed sense of direction. He'd accepted the consulting role Marcus and Priya had offered, just part-time for now. Logistics and crisis planning for emergency response, AI systems. It was work that made his heart beat with meaning again. But he didn't quit driving. He still drove a few rides each day. Not for the money anymore, but for the human connection, the stories, the lessons, the echoes of the old code he still lived by. Serve others before self. Thursday afternoon brought one of those rides he'd remember forever. Pickup, Boston College. Name, Peter Langston. He pulled into the student pickup lane near the sprawling stone buildings. A young man with perfectly tousled hair, pastel chinos, and mirrored sunglasses strolled toward the car with all the self-assurance in the world. He looked like he'd walked out of a yacht catalog. He yanked open the back door and slouched inside. Yo, Peter said, get me to the wharf. Like fast. I'm already late, and this boat isn't going to wait for me. Darius glanced at him in the mirror. On it. Peter tossed his duffel to the seat beside him and tapped away on his phone. 2 minutes into the ride, he groaned. Ugh, why is traffic always a thing in this stupid city? Darius kept his eyes on the road. Rush hour. Peter rolled his eyes. Whatever. Hey, you got aux or Bluetooth or something? I can't sit in silence. Sorry, only hands-free through the app. Peter scoffed. Figures. The next 10 minutes were filled with Peter's complaints about the city, his frat, the boat party being lame, unless hot girls actually show up, and the bartender at his favorite club getting fired for refusing to mix his special cocktail. Eventually, Peter asked, "You ever think you could have done something else with your life?" Darius replied calmly, "I did." "Yeah," Peter grinned. "What, like UPS or something?" "No, the USARMY. Peter laughed like it was a punchline. "Oh, damn. That explains the vibe. You guys are always so serious. My uncle was a Marine. Total hard ass. Couldn't even laugh at Family Guy. Maybe he had things he didn't talk about." Peter shrugged. "Probably. But I mean, come on, man. That was a long time ago. Iraq and all that. No offense. But it's not like anyone remembers that stuff anymore." Darius felt the words like a slap across the chest, but he didn't flinch. "You'd be surprised," he said. Peter tilted his head. "So what? You just drive now. Isn't that a little beneath someone who's been through all that action?" Darius pulled into the marina lot, shifted into park, and turned around in his seat. His voice was calm, low, controlled. "I didn't drive because I had to. I drove because it gave me a way to find people. People like you, who might need to see the world from someone else's eyes." Peter blinked, unsure how to respond. Darius opened the glove box and took out the pass again. The laminated card, the emblem, the weight of valor pressed into government plastic. He handed it back over the seat. Peter took it hesitantly, read it. His entire expression changed. I didn't mean you did. But now you know better." Peter looked down. "I'm sorry, man. I didn't know. I was being a jackass. You're not the first. You won't be the last. Just try to be better, that's all." Peter handed the pass back with both hands. Respectfully, silently. Darius gave him a quiet nod. "Have a good time on the boat." Peter stepped out without another word, walking slower, his head down. That night, Darius parked in the same river lot where he had sat days before. This time, his thoughts weren't haunted by gunfire or lost comrades. They were filled with moments, small victories, honest conversations. The knowledge that even in the smallest interactions, he was making an impact. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Again. "CTO loved your ideas. She wants you to lead a training session next month for our crisis AI launch. Think you're ready." He smiled. Always. Friday came, and with it, a call he never expected. "The Boston City Veterans Affairs Department." "Mr. Cole," a woman's voice asked. "We were given your name by a local startup founder. He said you've been instrumental in connecting with the community. We're planning a city-wide recognition event for Veterans Day. Would you be willing to speak?" Darius hesitated. "I'm not a public speaker." "You don't have to be. Just tell your story." He looked down at the honor pass again, then out at the city he'd once felt so removed from. "Yeah," he said, "I'll do it." Saturday arrived with the chill of early fall. Leaves danced across sidewalks, and the city began buzzing with weekend energy. Darius decided to take one ride, just one, pickup, Back Bay, named Julia Park. He pulled up in front of a hotel. A middle-aged Asian woman stepped out, dressed simply but elegantly. She wore no makeup and carried a sketch pad under her arm. She smiled warmly as she got in. "Hi there. Going to the Museum of Fine Arts, please." Of course. The ride was peaceful. Soft jazz this time, Angela Bofill. She hummed along. "You a fan of art?" she asked eventually. "Not really," he admitted. "I'm more of a history guy." She smiled. "They're the same thing. In the end, one tells stories in silence, the other in noise." They pulled up in front of the museum. Before getting out, she turned to him. "I don't usually say this, but you seem like someone who's lived 100 lives. Just 3 tours," he said with a small smile. She nodded. "Thank you for your service and your silence." As she stepped out, Darius felt it again, that soft stirring inside, like something was healing. The event came 2 weeks later. He stood at a podium in front of a modest crowd, veterans, families, kids in flag shirts, old men in worn uniforms, and even Marcus, Priya, Caleb, and Miss Green. He cleared his throat. "My name is Darius Cole," he began, "and for a long time, I thought I came back from war just to disappear." He looked out at them, voice steady now. But I learned something behind the wheel of a black SUV. That service doesn't end when you hang up your uniform. It just changes. Sometimes the battlefield is a street corner, a conversation, a young man in trouble, a woman on her way to see her mother. He held up the veteran honor pass. This isn't just a card. It's not just for recognition. It's a reminder that we still matter, that we still serve, that we are not invisible. The crowd rose to its feet, not in pity, but in pride. And as Darius stepped down from the stage, his head held high, he realized he was no longer walking away from something. He was walking toward it. Life, purpose, honor, still serving, always. As the applause echoed through the square, Darius stepped down from the wooden podium and was immediately greeted by a small crowd, some familiar faces, some strangers. Marcus reached him first, grinning from ear to ear. "You killed it, man," he said, clasping Darius's shoulder. "You had half the room crying and the other half cheering." Darius gave a modest shrug. "Didn't do it for applause. I know. That's what made it hit so hard." Marcus turned to wave over Priya, who approached with a proud smile and a small envelope. "I know this wasn't about recognition," she said, handing him the envelope, "but we wanted to make a donation in your name to a local veterans shelter. We're also officially naming you a senior advisor on our resilience initiative. If you'll accept." Darius blinked. "You're serious?" Priya smiled warmly. "Dead serious. We need people who know what real pressure looks like, who understand human lives behind the numbers. You do." He looked down at the envelope, then back up at her. "Then I'm in." Not far away, Caleb stood by the fountain in a hoodie and clean jeans, watching Darius like he was witnessing something sacred. When Darius caught his eye, he gave a quick, embarrassed wave. "Hey," Caleb said as he walked over. "I didn't think you'd remember me." "I remember every passenger, Caleb." The teen laughed nervously. "That thing you said about carrying the anger differently, I've been trying. I even signed up for the after-school mentorship program. I figured maybe I could be like, not a soldier, but someone strong. You already are," Darius said, his voice gentle. "Just keep showing up. That's the real fight." Caleb nodded, his throat tight. Behind them, a woman's voice chimed in, soft and aged. "Mr. Cole." He turned to see Miss Green again, now accompanied by her daughter and a young boy with big, curious eyes. "I brought my grandson to meet you," she said. "I told him you're what a real hero looks like." The little boy stepped forward. "Are you like Captain America?" Darius crouched, looking him in the eye. "Not exactly. I don't have a shield, but I try to protect people just the same." The boy nodded solemnly. "You're cooler than Captain America." Darius laughed for the first time in days, really laughed. The ceremony wound down, the crowd thinning as families returned home and flags were folded with care. Darius lingered near the edge of the plaza, soaking in the moment. The city no longer felt like a battlefield. It felt like something he belonged to. That evening, Darius returned home not to an empty apartment, but to something new. His kitchen table held a few papers, the consulting contract from Marcus's firm, a brochure from the Veterans Speaking Bureau that had already reached out after today's speech, and a faded photo of his old Army unit tucked into the corner of the fridge with a magnet. He poured himself a glass of water, sat down, and stared at all of it. There was still healing to do, still pain, still silence at night. But now there was direction, people, purpose. His phone buzzed again. Another text. From Angela Ramirez. "Hi, Mr. Darius. Just wanted to say thanks again. My mom's treatment went well this week. I got into a scholarship program. I'm gonna be okay. You told me I was a fighter. You were right." He stared at the message, his chest tight with something more powerful than grief, pride. Another buzz. From Julia Park. "One drew you. I hope that's not weird. I felt something in your face that I had to capture. I left it at the diner where you took that boy. They're holding it for you." He smiled. Another buzz. From Connor Bentley. "I've been thinking about what you said. I started volunteering at a local vet shelter. You were right. I had no idea. Thank you. Then another. From Evelyn Walker, I was terrible to you. I've been going to therapy, trying to face myself. You changed something in me. Thank you for your strength. Darius sat in silence. Then he reached into his jacket pocket. The veteran honor pass was still there, but now it felt different. It wasn't just a symbol of the past. It was a badge of the present, of continued service. He got up, opened the drawer by his desk, and gently placed the card inside a frame next to the photograph of his old unit. Under the photo, he scribbled a note and slid it behind the glass. Still serving, one ride at a time. The next morning, Darius didn't turn the app on right away. He drove to the diner Julia had mentioned. Inside, Reggie greeted him with a grin. Got something for you, Sarge. Behind the counter, wrapped carefully in brown paper, was a canvas. He opened it slowly. It was a portrait painted in bold strokes and soft shadows. His own face, weathered but calm, eyes filled with pain and quiet fire. In the background, faint silhouettes of a road, a car, and people walking away from shadows into the light. It took his breath away. Reggie leaned in. She called it the driver. Darius couldn't speak. He just nodded, eyes shining. Later that day, he finally turned on the app, not because he needed the money, because someone out there needed the ride. And maybe, just maybe, they needed something else, too. Someone to listen. Someone to speak truth. Someone to carry a little weight, just for a little while. He tapped online, another ping. Pick up Chelsea. Name, Jonah. He smiled. On my way, he whispered. And into the city he drove, no longer invisible. Still a soldier. Still a servant. Still a guardian of stories and strength. Darius Cole. A ride-share driver. A decorated veteran. A man who refused to disappear, and in a world so quick to forget, he reminded everyone he met what it truly meant to serve.